Alrighty, welcome to episode 215 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. As revealed during last week's Ask Us Anything, Tesla posted Q1 production and delivery results with approximately 362,000 cars produced and 336,000 delivered. It also reported the deployment of 10.4 gigawatt hours of energy storage products. Tesla has announced its Q1 earnings call will be held on Wednesday morning, the 23rd of April at 5:30 Perth time. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and welcome to the program. And as is customary, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please unmute and say hello.
Hello, my name is Heidi and I've just bought a Tesla.
Hi Heidi, and welcome, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us about your car, Model 3, Model Y?
Model Y, I've had it 2 weeks, so I'm still trying to figure my way out on that one.
Oh, fantastic. Well, this is the perfect program to ask any questions whatsoever that you might have. And please don't think that any questions are trivial or, silly questions. There's literally no such thing. Every single one of us Tesla owners, no matter how experienced we are now, were absolute amateurs when we first got our cars. So once again, welcome and congratulations. All right, we'll try for a double. Do we have anyone else who would like to unmute and say hello? Or perhaps a little bit later in the program. Alrighty, who would like? Oh, actually, there was one bit of the news that I decided not to highlight because it's a bit debatable whether it is actually anything to highlight, and that is this bit, which, excuse me, a lot of people have been making a bit of fuss over, where it says, in addition to posting first quarter results, Tesla management will hold a live company update and question and answer webcast, blah, blah, blah. Now, I think a lot of people have been excited to say, oh, maybe that means there's going to be another announcement. But actually, in truth, if you think about many of the previous, almost all of the previous earnings calls, basically live company updates is exactly the first part of the call, whereby Elon will introduce, what's been happening over the last quarter and, upcoming developments and things, and it's often his predictions of things like the share price and other things. So to be honest, I'd be moderating my excitement on Wednesday morning at 5:30 a.m. because really, if they were going to do something like announce a cheaper model or other interesting things, you'd hope that that would be its own dedicated event. But I'm certainly happy to be wrong, and certainly happy for anyone to disagree with me, and hopefully there is something exciting. But anyway, I just thought for the news purposes, I'd just keep it to it is their normal quarterly earnings call, although it'll be a very interesting one, no doubt. Alrighty, who would like to start off with a question or a comment? Bearing that I do know a lot of people are slow to ask the first few questions, and then towards the end of the evening we start getting a whole flurry. But
Yeah, sorry.
anyone? Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
Harold, I've got the Model 3. I got four really dumb questions. So, I mean, you can use them as filler throughout the night if you want.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll give us one, and then we'll see if anyone else has got anything else, and then, yeah, happy to keep going through them.
Yeah, they're pretty dumb. The first one is the central unlocking. Is there any way to get around having to press the button on the driver's door to unlock the rest of the car for people to access, like the passengers?
Sorry, now you mean when you're in the car?
No, when I come up to the car. So if I use, say, I unlock it on my phone, it only unlocks my door.
Okay, so when you say unlock, do you mean using the app itself, or sorry,
Unlock the car.
what car do you have? What model?
Model 3, Highland.
Okay, so and you've set up your phone as a key?
Yep. So I walk up to it, unlocks my door, the driver's door.
Yep.
If I press the unlock icon on the car, it unlocks my door. but I find I have to open my door and press my unlock button on the
So,
door itself.
so when you
That's
say press the
drivers.
unlock, so when you say press the unlock icon on your phone, what do you mean by that? You mean
Uh,
using the unlock on the actual phone itself, the app on the app, rather
Yeah,
than just walking up to your car? Because when you walk up to your car,
yeah.
your at a minimum, your driver's side should be unlocked. You should be able to just simply manipulate the handle and open that door. Does that work for you?
Yeah. No, it's just the
Yeah.
passenger door. So if
Okay.
my wife or sorry, yeah, Paul.
yeah. So under locks in your on your car, you've got door driver door unlock mode. If that's enabled, which that was a few updates ago, that's what that problem is. So you have to
Ah,
go into that and unhighlight that crap, and then
okay.
you'll be fine.
Does that affect the proximity
Or
unlock?
what's it say? So when enabled, the driver door and charge port will unlock with the keys detected near. Holding down the interior door will unlock the rest of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So,
So
Yeah,
that's
so
so
what's
that's what
that's
happening.
people
that's
that's
that's what's
that's
being highlighted.
and
So if
that
I
safety feature so that if you're concerned there might be a
Yep,
stalker or something
yep,
ducked down in the passenger side waiting for you to unlock your car and then they sort of jump in, you can
yep,
basically set it so that only the driver's door will unlock as you approach, so that
yep,
you can sort of get in, close the door, and none of the other doors will be open. But obviously, that's a specific safety feature that you don't need to use if you don't need to use it.
yep.
yeah,
So it's
I should.
under locks in your car, under locks. You'll
Yeah,
find that
I've seen
feature.
it. I didn't play with it because I thought it would affect the proximity thing. So if I just
So you just go into
switch
the
that to
menu
off,
and then locks, and then you go down. I
Yeah, you
can't
scroll
scroll this
down.
menu, but you need to
Oh
scroll
yeah,
down,
yeah.
and then you can change that.
Ah, good. All right, I'll try that.
easy.
Thanks, fellas.
Right, sorry, you've got Chalky as your Zoom name. So what's your name, or what should we call you? Chalky, or anything else you
Yeah,
prefer?
Chalky's good. There's
Yeah,
Gareth Chalklin. So last
okay,
name that
no worries,
hence.
Gareth.
Yeah.
Um, cool. I'll just note that down. All right. Has anyone else got a question or a comment? Otherwise, we'll have to. Oh, yes, James.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Is Tocqueville taking a position with the disgraceful Channel 7 program that went out on Sunday night? Because
Liam Bartnett's an
interestingly,
idiot.
look, I know that, but I tell you what, that program has created more negativity to me driving a Tesla than anything that's happened in the last year.
So,
And it's actually disgraceful. And I wondered whether there was a behind the scenes, whether all the EV car sellers in Australia were going to do something, whether Tocqueville were going to do something, because we have to push back. It's absolutely appalling.
so for
Yeah.
example, James, do you have a long range or standard range Model 3 or Y?
I have rear wheel
Rear wheel
drive,
drive.
standard range.
Okay.
Standard
So
range.
anyone that walks up to you and says your dirty EV
I know.
its battery is full of nickel,
Nickel.
you can say that there's not a single atom of nickel in your battery because
I,
it's it's a lithium iron phosphate battery, which by definition does not contain nickel.
and
So
I've done that 3 or 4 times, but the problem is that attitude is really lodging in. Certainly, I'm really feeling it in our area down here. I've got people saying, how do you feel? And somehow we have to get a message back and to Channel 7 and some sort of retraction. And I mean,
yeah.
we need to be educating the public. And I've always enjoyed, through my ownership of an EV, educating people how fantastic an experience it is and great for the environment. And I just feel that program has just set us back so far. And I can say and stand there in the high street where I live and say, I've got no nickel in this battery. But there's a lot of people out there who take a lot of convincing. I've had one
Right.
person tell me that I'm lying.
Oh, no, well, okay, then all you got to do is tell them you go to the Tesla.com website, you look at the fact that, well, actually, you can just show them on your screen. It actually says, I'm pretty sure it says lithium iron phosphate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can go to Wikipedia and just
I
say,
know.
or
I know.
Grok and go,
Yeah.
what elements are in a lithium a lithium iron
Yeah.
phosphate battery, and it'll tell you that there's lithium and there's iron and there's
Mm.
phosphorus
Yeah.
and cobalt. Sorry, not cobalt. Graphite, a little bit of silicon, I think, perhaps,
Yeah.
and a few other bits. But look, I guess one thing to try and we'll have to all accept is that the haters are going to hate. So really what Channel 7 is doing is feeding the chooks, those being the ones that hate EVs anyway and always will. And it's just like another excuse to say, gotcha. It's the dirty nickel from Indonesia. Although
Yeah.
I thought I heard from
They
the
don't
ABC
use
this
the Indonesian.
afternoon.
The Indonesian nickel's low grade. They don't
exactly.
even
But I
use
heard-
that in EVs.
Yeah.
It's a total disinformation thing because
That's actually not true. Some of that nickel from that particular place is actually for EVs. But if you look at Indonesian nickel, 80% of it is not for EV batteries. 80%, 60% is for stainless steel. So anyone who's got stainless steel has probably got some of that in it. That's
I've
its
heard
biggest
it-
use. 60%
Yeah.
stainless steel, about 20% is for EVs. And even that site, I know Electric Viking said this the other day, but I did a lot of digging into that. And some of that from that particular site is for EVs, but it's only 15 to 20% of it. 60% is for for stainless steel, and there's about 20% that's for other uses, and then that 20% in the middle is for EVs, possibly.
Not Tesla.
Not Tesla.
Doesn't,
Well, no.
Tesla doesn't get it from there.
Well,
So-
if you go
so-
into Grok and do a search on Grok, Grok tells you
Yeah.
Tesla does use it.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, but AIs.
Grok is not all
Yeah.
the be all and end all. Okay,
Oh,
I
no, it
guess-
isn't. No.
we know that it comes from Australia and like Canada and other sort of places and that sort of stuff. So that story was a bunch of bullshit. He
The
works for
whole
Shell,
thing was bullshit. Yeah.
and the reality of it all is, I actually sort of think that we should be suing him.
Yeah,
But
shit, yeah.
do we really get our backs up about all this shit, or do we just go, you know what, that Model Y, number one selling vehicle for the last 2 years, looks like it's going to be this year as well. You know what, the people that hate it hate it. I mean, you look in America, the guys that really hate it are now actually coal rolling the Tesla protesters. And,
That was funny.
and they're actually buying Teslas, like the oil and gas. One of the execs actually bought his Tesla and just put it in his driveway as a protest. And you're just going, the world's topsy-turvy. And I'm just going, I think we just let it go and just enjoy ourselves and just get the good vibes going, because these guys are just going to keep this shit up until the election's done, I think.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's only my
until
opinion.
there's an election. And the other thing that's interesting about it is it's also not in any way new. The Guardian ran this story 3 years ago with almost the same headline. I can probably find it and post it in.
Yeah.
So Channel 7 are trying to pretend this is some spectacular brand new expose that they've just discovered.
Yeah.
And of course, coincidentally, they've just discovered it when the election's coming up and when
Exactly.
when the lobbyists want to try and win the election. And I'm
It's
happy
such
to
a
say that
hatchet
out
job.
loud. Come and sue me, Channel 7.
Yeah.
Almost certainly they got paid to do it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
And the other thing is on that, if they really thought about all those people, the Indonesians who were actually injured in that sort of thing, they showed all
Bleeding
their
hearts.
faces. All those people, they showed their faces. Even ones with masks, you could see who they were. The people in Indonesia knows who the people are. Every one of those people have now lost their jobs. They didn't need to even show the faces. If they really thought about and were thought about the people, they wouldn't have shown that. They have no regard for the people. It's just a hit piece.
there you go.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
3-year-old article about the third paragraph, they call out Indonesian nickel.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay.
I love
I
all
was
these.
interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
So
No, you go.
it's not news. It's also still not true.
No. Yeah,
No.
yeah, exactly. And these bleeding hearts that are all like, "Oh my God, your car," and I'm like, "So you're still driving petrol? Are you still polluting the air that we all breathe?"
And all
that's
the
at
oil slicks, all the oil damage.
and all the stuff in Nigeria and the rest of places around the world. Do you give a shit? No, you don't. So I don't like those virtue signaling. It's because I had all this crap on Monday, and I just was like, you know what? If these people really cared, they would not be buying stuff on Amazon. They wouldn't be doing all this other sort of stuff. They would be bicycling everywhere. They wouldn't be driving petrol, and they're not. They're just virtue signaling idiots. So it'll be the next thing that they'll put a little flag or a little thing on their profile and say, "I'm a good person." Give their $20 to Greenpeace and do jack shit. These people are just. Oh, sorry. To get us demonetized for no money that you're going to get. So
Yes, that's right. Get our
yeah,
non-monetized
get off
channel
my ranting.
monetized.
Yeah, sorry, man.
By the way, if you want to monetize our channel, please do like
Please
and
do.
subscribe. We need
Yeah.
1,000 subscribers, please. We've only got 500, so we need twice as many people to subscribe. Just use your second email address. It'll be okay. And by the way, for anyone wondering about Tesla sales in Australia, you can just go to the Driven and there's an article that has a running spreadsheet, and it's most up to date is March, and clearly Tesla's Model Y and 3 are in the lead.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, I mean, to be fair, their sales are down from this time last year, but
Yeah.
so are other EVs. So
Yeah.
Tesla still is very clearly in the lead with the top two models in Australia.
Well, and they happen to just release a new model of the Model Y as well, so they'll
Yeah.
be out this quarter anyway.
have they
Oh,
released a new model?
That's got no start in March, so none of those Ys.
Yeah.
And we've got to remember that the Model Y has been heavily Osborned. I mean, I know not everyone knew that the new Model Y was coming, but a lot did. And towards the end, many, you could say many chose to wait.
Right.
And even if you'd ordered a Model Y on the 10th of January, which was the earliest date you could get the refreshed Model Y, none of those cars will come into Western Australia or Australia for that matter until May. And that's next month. So there's no new sales until May. And then the non-launch edition, they'll have deliveries in June. So you've got a huge overhang. That was the other thing too in the news. Obviously, we had this I think it was Paul broke it last week during Ask Us Anything with the Tesla releasing its production figures, which were roughly 100,000 less than last quarter. But Tesla actually said that they had several weeks of lost production in having to change over, lost production of Model Y, to having to change over 4 factories simultaneously. And 4 weeks of production of Model Y, strangely so, roughly approximates 100,000 units, which neatly dovetails into the so-called shortfall of the last quarter. So yeah, it's always good to have the facts and even for our own good, know that there's nothing wrong with demand for Model Ys. Just wait and see when the first ones arrive in Australia, and there'll be another second wave of people ordering these cars once they see them. Alrighty. Well, that was a pretty fiery start. It sort of started a bit slowly. It was like the fuse sort of fizzled a bit, and then it went off with a bang.
Those dual motor, dirty dual motor batteries.
Those nickel loaded batteries.
Oh yeah, I love my performance.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to drive my stainless sink around.
I can't show it properly, $4.
Oh yeah.
You know, this is made of cupra nickel. I don't know what the percentage. This has got dirty nickel in it. And actually, I appeal that everyone sends their dirty nickel laden $1 and $2 coins to me. So care of aqua.org.au, send them all to me and I will dispose of them on your behalf. I'll very quickly turn them into Bitcoin, which is much.
What about 50 cents coins? They'll probably have more in.
I'm not even sure what the silver stuff has, to be honest. I know
I'm pretty sure it's nickel.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, even
And a little bit of silver, but not a lot. Yeah, you're right.
No.
just in case, just send it all in. Just send all your coins in, please, to me, and I'll sort them out for you.
Actually,
I'm going to be coining it in.
I was going to say I'm doubly bad because I ordered some stainless steel funnels from Amazon, so they probably came from China. So yeah,
That's
put me in
nothing.
the
I
real
just
bad
bought a new
books.
laundry tub. Look, that's
Okay.
huge. I'm gonna put wheels on it and drive it around just to annoy him.
Ah, dearie me. All right. Well, on that fiery start, has anyone got a less incendiary question to ask before I go back to Gareth? Or actually, Heidi, you've got a new car. Have you got any questions at all that you might have been thinking of?
No, not at the moment. I'm still trying to figure my car out, and I go onto the manual and I read the manual and I work things out that way. The
Yeah,
only
cool.
thing that I had was the Tesla accessories. There was a charging cable that I bought on there because I was told at Tesla that it's the Tesla make, and it's actually not. It's just a general EV make, and it works properly when you go up to the car and you actually start charging at the car. But if you try and switch it on with your phone later, it doesn't work. You have to go to the car and then replug it and start it again.
Sorry, is this just a 10 amp
Yeah,
you plug into an
yeah,
outlet? And
yeah.
this is a charger from Tesseries?
From Tesseries, yes.
Oh,
So what you're saying is if you plug it in, I'm just trying to find it here.
I think it's called the EV portable charger.
Got it. Okay. So that's this one here for $295.
Yeah, that one.
ooh,
Okay. So what it should do generally is when you plug it in, so what you should actually do is make sure that you've plugged it into the mains first, and
Yeah,
then you plug it into the car.
yeah,
And
that's what I do.
right, and as soon as you plug it into the car, it should start charging.
It does start charging if you move it, because you can do 8, 10, and I think 15 amps. So you've got to move it to 10 amp, depending on the time of day that you're doing it. But if you
Yep.
plug it in and you want it to start at 11 o'clock when you're in the cheaper period, you
Oh,
actually have to
yes.
go back to the car and then start it, because it won't start from, let's say you're in the bedroom and your car's in the garage, it won't start that way.
oh.
Have you set scheduled charging on in your car? So have you?
I have.
Aha. And you've started the scheduled charging for 11 a.m.
Yeah,
No, 11 p.m.
11
Sorry.
p.m.
Yep. Yep. And so then what you're saying is if you get home and you plug it in, nothing will happen
Yeah, it won't
unless you
charge.
either tell it to charge or until you wait till 11 p.m.
Well, I have to go to the car, unplug it, replug it, and it will start. It won't start just by tapping the phone and saying charge car now. It won't do it.
Okay, but you have set in a scheduled charging time, haven't you? So it says
Yeah,
you set a time that says don't start charging until 11 p.m.
yeah, exactly right.
So what happens if you get home, you plug the car in to the charger and wait until 11 p.m.? Will it then start charging?
No, that's the point. It doesn't start.
Sounds like
And
an
you've,
issue
def-
with.
and you've definitely had it set as scheduled charging, not scheduled departure,
No, scheduled charging.
and it's set for 11 p.m.
Set for 11 p.m. I've now changed it to 10 o'clock so that I can go to the car at 10 o'clock, unplug it, plug it back into the car, and then say start charging on the phone, and it will start charging. And then I can go to bed and I know it's going to charge.
What we might do is if you ring this number, if you've got a pen or whatever, 6262
And I'm just going to put it in 6262
3131.
3131.
That's Tesla. That's Tokwa's. It might as well be Tesla's helpline. That's Tokwa's helpline. And we can have a phone conversation tomorrow and try and sort this out. We need to find out. I'd very much doubt your charger would be fussy in that it would sort of be upset that you've plugged it into the car and nothing's happened and it kind of gives up or does something weird or whatever. there'd have to be something subtle in the way you've set the car up, the charging for the car. So that's best to do over the phone live,
Right.
where the two of us can sit in our respective cars and go through the settings just to make sure.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
No worries. Alrighty. Has anyone else got a question or a comment? Or perhaps Gareth, have you got your second of 4 questions?
Yes. Okay. Here we go. So how do you get the data? You know, like I see like a graph of how the energy's been consumed by the vehicle over a trip. How do you actually drill down into that? Because I go to charging and I just get like a generic bit of information about how it goes, but I don't get that full. So obviously I don't know how to.
Okay, so
access
when you
it.
go into trips, sorry, I haven't done it for such a long time.
Yeah, trips. Yeah, that's the one.
What is it?
Trips. So you go to trips, and then it gives you like a generic, you know, how many kilowatts, like 129, whatever.
And you've got the graph, the energy graph as well for the current trip or for since parked and since charged, I think, or something like that.
Mm.
You've got various graphs. They're less detailed. They've got the same detail, but you can no longer drill down to the last 10 kilometers average efficiency or running efficiency. There used to be 3 different scales. You could have last 10 Ks, the last 25 Ks, and the last 50 Ks of your trip. Then you could also have the whole of your trip. And now the 10, 25, and 50 is gone, and all you've got is like a graph that sort of goes downwards to show how your battery level has gone down and whether that was greater or less than expected. And then I'll give you those.
Is it just a? So I'm just not scrolling down to see that graph because I've seen it once, but I can't figure out how to get back
Menu
in.
item do you go to?
Yeah, so the energy graph is actually one of the apps. So it's a separate app within this thing. It's energy. So you know, like how you got the camera, dash cam, phone, calendar, toy box, all that sort of stuff. So the energy graph's in there.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
then you add that. I have that and dash cam and camera on my quick one on the.
If you hit your little
yeah, right. Because I've been going down the side menu.
Yep, that's it.
you'll see the energy one. And I haven't captured that when I did this simulator or emulator, whatever it is, mock-up. So it's the energy one. That's the one you've got to hit. And then that will show you the graph or a couple of different graphs of how your car's been performing.
Yeah, they changed it.
Like that. So just if you hit, if it's not on the actual bottom because you haven't used it recently, you'll see some dots. Just press that.
Yeah.
And then
I'm familiar with the bar. I played with all the toy box stuff and the light show and everything else. But so I must have hit that, seen the graph, and then tried to find it through the side horizontal. Yeah.
No, it's not on the side menu. It's on the bottom, but it's in the
okay.
if you haven't frequently used it. And I think you can actually drag it down. It says you can drag it down to the bottom and keep it like a favorite. There's 2 sections. There's a recently used, which I think might be on the left.
The left,
right hand side is your kind of pinned icons, I guess, for lack of a better term.
And you can add 5.
So good. All right, cheers. I knew it would be pretty simple.
No worries. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments?
Do you want to do the road update, Harold? Remember 5 kilometre/hour speed limit thing?
Go. Well, only if there's a new outcome, Mike.
If it's the same.
So there's a bit of outcome.
Excellent. Good. Well, then please do.
So I had my service appointment and I became a grumpy old man, as you do as you get older at one point, because they sent me pages from the manual and said the appointment was complete. I'm going, no. And then they, shut the appointment off. But I went there at the previously agreed to time and they were very nice. So after my grumpiness, and a service chap. You guys have probably met him, or some of you. Tim, he's really good. And so he was going to call me. As it turns out, he was just snowed under and he hadn't got to it, which is why it was all over before he got to me. So he came out and he had a chat and he looked through my car, and so I can say that all the hardware. So I've got, for those who haven't been following this, a 22 Model 3, and so all the hardware is fine. And he knew about some of the idiosyncrasies in the data that we all know about, as it turns out. So there are some that we all know, and then there are some other ones. And I was just disturbed by the 5. So it turns out that the 5 comes from, what would you call it, a lay-by way next to the road. So it's like all of 30 meters long or something. So they had put in a call. So here's the new bit for me. You guys may know this, but I hadn't picked this up from you in the conversations. So it turns out that the data is actually, what should I say, created by Main Roads. And that then gets communicated to the OpenStreetMaps team. So the upshot of it is as we discussed, I think last week, we had a navigation update about 2 weeks ago now, probably. So they'd actually put it through, and unfortunately they'd made a mistake. So instead of moving the speed limit to the east, they've actually moved it to the west. So going south, the 5 doesn't come up, but going north, it still comes up.
Oh, so it's lanes. It's changed direction.
Yeah. Well, no, it was in both directions previously.
Oh, so that's only one, right?
Yeah. So they fixed one, and Gwelup Street has been fixed in one direction, but not necessarily the other. And of course, because of this issue of the car will keep the speed limit until it sees something else, or as Tim explained, a node. So if there's a junction or something that's known as a node on the mapping structure, then it'll keep the same speed limit that it was. So that was interesting. So all good in the end, although what I would now say, and perhaps for discussion amongst the tribe, for me, I'll say that my old job used to be working with groups of people to improve. And frankly, with these sorts of cars coming to the roads more frequently, the people in charge of this data can't get away with this rubbish, frankly.
Okay, so there's 2 parties that are really directly involved, and that's Main Roads and OpenStreetMap. And Tesla is merely a client of OpenStreetMap.
Yep.
Or a subscriber, sorry, to OpenStreetMap. So
we should lobby Main Roads to get their act together.
Yes, because, and look, and there's a very good reason for that, is because perhaps beforehand, a lot of these speed things were more ethereal and not as critically important, because it might have been for, well, emergency services or whatever, to know roughly what the limits are, or something, or maybe certain planning or whatever. But you're dead right in the sense that with interconnected cars, if a lot of them are using faulty data, then it'll have unexpected outcomes. Some of them, I mean, no one ever died from having speed limits inadvertently set too low, but the corollary could be the case. There could be, in fact, there are places where the speed limit is too high, and the car can react adversely to that, or at least not slow down the way it should, or warn you of a overspeed situation. So it's potentially a safety issue.
Yep.
And I think you did right. We should lobby Main Roads to please submit accurate data to OpenStreetMap. I don't know whether there's a lot of point trying to say to OpenStreetMap, well, if you get an error, you should listen to us when we tell you it's wrong, because otherwise they could be subject to spamming or all sorts of stuff. So I dare say it's really main roads that we should possibly lobby to say, hey, please check your database before submitting it or submitting updates. I don't know whether they just do an entire framework or whether they just change various nodes or how they update their data. But
Yeah, a few
try
years
harder.
ago, I was familiar with how some of the government departments manage their data using a variety of tools to accurately reflect spatial and other data for planning purposes and so on. And this could, in fact, be, shall I say, automatically patched into OpenStreetMaps without any manual input, shall we say. But do you guys know if any other EVs have the reliance on the speeds that Teslas seem to? Because I'm new, Tesla's my first one, so I don't know what other vehicles are like in terms of how they use this speed data in their system. Because it may just not be a Tesla issue, it could be a general EV, in which case, through perhaps the RAC as well, who are always keen on EVs and all that stuff, we've got to get onto main roads to get their act together.
Yeah, I mean, look, the RAC, if they are to be believed that they are a member-oriented motoring group advocating on behalf of all motorists in Western Australia, although more prominently acting on behalf of member motorists in Western Australia, then that sort of transcends just Tesla as one.
Yep.
Has anyone got another EV, another brand of EV in the room tonight that has speed notification at all, or overspeed notification, which obviously implies it knows what the speed limit is? Not sure if anyone. No one's got another EV that's non-Tesla. No, but
a friend of mine's got one of those. What are they called? BYD.
Feel.
The hatchback one, not the
Dolphin.
SO3.
Yeah, so she's got one of those, so I'll ask her. But I'm just wondering whether we make an official TOCWA approach to main roads, or whether we moan, because if we moan at them individually, they're probably just going to ignore us.
Yes, no doubt. I mean, look, that's something that we have. That's probably something that TOCWA would certainly be interested in doing, and wouldn't be that.
Do some research in the background, Harold, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, we do know, and it makes sense because I already was aware that OpenStreetMaps was used by Tesla, and it does make sense. I mean, OpenStreetMaps aren't going to just confect the data out of thin air. It's obviously going to be spoon-fed to them, and clearly it's main roads that would be doing. So, yeah, no, I think TOCWA would definitely be interested and would put in a submission to main roads if we can try and find the right people at main roads, the right department, which I think we can. I can see someone in the room that would know. So, we'll definitely be doing it. Consider it done.
Yep.
Just not tomorrow. It might take a couple.
No. It doesn't need to be tomorrow.
But then, sadly, of course, the remedy, if magically main roads fixed all their data, and I'll preface that with magically, then sadly there wouldn't be an influence on Tesla for about another 6 months, which is the interval that they seem to be updating the navigation mapping on.
Yes.
And I'm not sure. I'd find it implausible to suggest that Tesla would do a special update just for Perth, but yeah,
it applies in the eastern states, according to Tim. They have the same issues over there, and once we can sort main roads out, we can then put pressure on Tesla to, even if they did a quarterly, which I've had other cars, and when they're in their warranty period, they update their maps quarterly.
Well, the thing too is these maps are updated at let's call it your expense, or at least through your own communications channel, that being Wi-Fi. So navigation map data is not updated customarily through GSM. So that's not something that Tesla has to pay for. It's done through are picking it up through Wi-Fi, whether that's from your home or hotspotting off your phone.
Yeah.
So, although I guess there's always a certain cost of having, I don't know how they determine which they'd have to run an update procedure, which obviously has a non-zero cost, but I don't imagine it'd be that great.
Yes.
But no, very good point, Mike. And yeah, look, we can as a club just do advocate on behalf of our members and say and ask Main Roads very nicely.
Yes.
Please either check or vet or improve your data transfer or whatever.
Tim confirmed that the little red arrow that you see on the screen is totally reflective of the GPS. So the car knows exactly where it is within a meter or two all the time. I've never seen it go into error. I don't go in tunnels very often, but
it usually does. I saw my son's Tesla and it looked like it was right in the middle of Clontarf Oval, and I thought, oh, that shouldn't be there. I know he goes to Curtin, but I really hope it's not in the middle of the oval, because that would be bad. And as it turns out, it was actually several hundred meters to the southwest. So, not with
parked, yes.
It generally knows where it is very accurately, unless it doesn't. And I think I said a number of weeks ago that my car, after coming out of Charles Gardner Hospital multi-story car park, thought it was deep in the Southern Ocean, below the roaring. It was probably the roaring 60s or 70s. It was like 70 degrees south.
That is very unusual.
And it did that for a number of minutes, like quite a few. So sometimes the cars can, in certain circumstances, for whatever reason it is, do something weird for a short period. But you are right. The cars do generally know where they are within a remarkably small margin of error, considering what they're dealing with. It is very, very good.
I can say this, I've built and programmed my own multi-rotors. So I know exactly the size of GPS chips and how they work. And so for some reason, it lost connection to the satellites in your particular case. That is really unusual. I've never seen that on any GPS chip ever. So that's an odd one.
Yeah, and it does happen. It does happen from time to time. But anyway.
Harold, I was thinking one way that Open Maps could verify the information that we feed them as to whether it is in fact accurate is just through Google Street Maps. They could pull up, the imagery of the roads with the speed signs. Alternatively, we could just take photos of the speed sign with the metadata attached to the photo and send that over to them as well.
Problem is, not all roads have speed signs, Pete. So, in fact, Gwelup Road and others, in fact, any minor road in Perth, by definition, its speed limit is 50 k's an hour, unless otherwise marked.
Yeah.
So, and the problem is, what you're doing is you're asking a human being to manually override multiple things. It's far better if someone like Main Roads just got the data right in the first place, or made sure.
Absolutely.
I'd say we're better off trying to advocate for initial accuracy rather than remediation, because we know remediation it's like moderation in social media. It's just not possible. I mean, you could try and do things like, I think sometimes I'll do like a voting site kind of thing where if someone puts in a change request, it has to be upvoted by a certain number of users, other users, independent users, as some sort of means of crowd funding or crowd sourcing, on the presumption that, you can fool one or two people, but if it were like 20 or 30 that said the same thing, it's probably true, unless it's not. But yeah, and that's something we'll definitely attack, and attempt to attack anyway, and see where it goes.
Yeah, if the Main Roads route, you're absolutely right. That should be our, plan A. But if that doesn't succeed, then I suppose that's a plan B.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be
Alrighty.
it a very one.
Yes. I see Chuck's joined us from the future. Chuck, are you still well ahead of us? Is it well past your bedtime? You're still 3 hours?
Oh, should be 2 now.
No, it's only the mild future now. It's only 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, so you haven't got as much foresight as you had previously.
That's right. No, I can only make really vague guesses as to what's going to happen now, as opposed to being fully accurate.
It'd still be very useful on the stock market if we had 2 hours advance notice of what the price. We'd be rather
very rich.
But well, speaking of which, have you got any news from the eastern states charging?
I don't think I do really. I just jumped straight off the Ludicrous feed live stream to come to this one because I forgot they was overlapping a bit now. So I'm trying to think what was being discussed there, but it was mostly the 7 spotlight story on the nickel stuff.
Oh, we already had.
You've probably already discussed that, yeah.
Please.
One bit of good news I have got charging wise is that at Majura Pass, John Edwards has successfully repaired the temporary Horizon Power 60 kilowatt installation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the diesel generator running off canola oil. So he actually fixed that day before yesterday on the 7th of April. So that's great. So that's
Very
now
good.
at Majura Pass.
And I think I also saw photos of, no, you might have already shared this as well, the permanent site at one of these.
Caledonia?
Trying to think which site it was. It was one of them. I'll see if I can find the original post actually. Where are we?
So there is a permanent site at Mundrabilla, and that's been having mixed results. This is whereby they're buying power off the Mundrabilla Roadhouse, and they've had a lot of cases whereby the plug share posts sort of vary. Some people have gone and blacked out the entire site 3 times in a row and been asked to stop charging.
Oh, jeez.
And the story varies almost weekly, whereby someone will say, please make sure, what management have asked to make sure you tell them that you're going to charge before you start so that they can then turn the generator on, the diesel generator. And then some days later or some posts later, it'll say, no, it's okay now. They've said it's all been fixed and it's working perfectly. And then a few days after that, someone else will come, black out the site several times and be asked to stop.
Yep.
And then it's been said, no, now we have fixed it. So John Edwards has reported on his way to Adelaide and on his way back from Adelaide, it worked perfectly both times. So, well, almost perfectly both times, didn't black out. So fingers crossed, hopefully Mundrabilla is working okay. And obviously, I think it was last week we showed an aerial photo, drone image of Baladonia, and that is now being constructed by a gentleman by the name of Jacko, who is based in Karratha, of all places. And
that's it.
Karratha is to Mundrabilla as Cockle Creek is to Devonport in Tassie. It's kind of almost the opposite side of the state.
Yeah.
I think about 3,000 kilometres away.
Yeah, just a small dash.
Yeah, just a small.
That's right.
Yeah, just minor.
I did drop some photos in the chat of the Baladonia site under construction. They were taken from the Tesla Motors Club forum.
Yes.
Someone posted them there.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, yes, that's where I saw them actually. Yeah, there you go. There. So that's brilliant. So that's so they are actually pin foundations. So you just have like I think it's 30 mil galvanized pipe, and you run it in like 30-degree angle or 45-degree angles. And there's 3 per footing, and they're for all the solar panels. Jacko actually expects that to be finished within a couple of weeks,
No,
which will
quick.
be awesome. So that will actually be the final battery energy storage system with solar panels that Horizon Power does for the WAV network. The other two outstanding locations at Kaiguna and Majura Pass, Horizon will simply be purchasing electricity from the roadhouse like they are at Mundrabilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Baladonia will be the final fully independently off-grid installation. And I think we did, Chuck, you did tell us last week about Townsville. I think you did. Or if not, you are now.
I don't. I don't think I was on last week. Actually, I was just in the background for a while. I'm not sure.
Okay, because
Anyway,
Townsville
yes.
is online, so that's the
Yeah.
Willows shopping centre. So
That's it.
it's now fully online, albeit a V3. But hey, any V3 anywhere is better than nothing.
That's
So
right. Yeah, that was 5 days ago. So that wouldn't have been.
Oh, okay. Well, that isn't.
Wouldn't have been
Yeah.
last
Well,
week. Yeah.
no worries. Well, thanks for letting us know about that, Chuck. That's awesome. You're always,
That's
you're
all right.
always ahead on the news.
One more for when you do your lap. Your next lap.
Yes. Well, I'll be leaving the day after the election.
In protest.
In protest of the outcome for which I don't know.
That's right.
But yes, so I'll be using Townsville, I don't know, about a week after the 4th of May. So let's call that the 11th of May or something like that, which would be good.
Yep. Sounds good.
Not that I need to use it because from Charters Towers you can get to Bowen without going to Townsville, into Townsville. I will anyway, because
because you have to, because it's there.
Got to take the photo. Got to take the speaking photo. Very good. Any other developments? I hear Tesla. Oh no, that's in South Australia. I forget
the battery factory thing.
Yes, they're doing like a service. They're doing servicing and also servicing for megapacks.
Yeah, it's very vague. The info I found basically only said it was only about disposing of the council land. So it didn't really give much detail as to what the actual development was. But it said so it's a local company wants to acquire it, and they're going to build and lease to Tesla, so Tesla can have a facility for servicing and showroom for Tesla vehicles, and a facility for the repurposing of Tesla batteries, which is fairly vague, doesn't really say what it is. But is it Powerwalls? Is it car batteries? Is it recycling? Is it just repackaging? So it could be anything.
It's similar to what they're going to do in Collie in WA, which is to do refurbishment of the megapacks. So, so what they're probably going to be doing is they realise that in time, various modules within the megapacks will need replacing.
Yeah.
Well, the megapack will need to be refurbished, whether it's in whole or just in part. So it might be similar to sort of car packs, whereby there might be one bank that has a few dodgy cells that need to be replaced. So then they will do that at that facility in much the same way as they're going to do in Collie, which is actually right next to the energy storage that Neo purchased from Tesla. So yeah, it's a great move. So it's a positive move for Tesla, and great to see them expanding the South Australian, well, basically the service centre and sales room. So again, it just shows Tesla's confidence in the market, in spite of these uncertain sort of times at the moment, which is always good to see. Alrighty. Yeah, anything else, Chuck? Nothing that sort of strikes you as news or anything the last week or two?
Nothing I can think of.
Cool.
The I think the Melbourne EV show was last week, and apparently the Tesla stand had massive queues for the new Model
Yeah,
Y and the Cybertruck.
yeah, indeed. And
So that
it's
goes against all the things you hear about Tesla going down the gurgler or whatever they like to say these days.
exactly, and it's funny because I've been fairly almost nihilistic about the Cybertruck. I mean, thinking that, it'll probably get here eventually and, whatever. But, and I think I sort of alluded to this last week, I'm starting to form an opinion that I personally think the introduction of a Cybertruck in Australia is certain because all the conditions are right for that to happen. The current versions of the Cybertrucks that are being produced are not being as heavily sold in the States as I think Tesla might have expected.
Yeah.
And they've got clearly more production capacity than current demand in this current configuration. And it therefore means it would literally be illogical for Tesla head office to not engage or enact Tesla Australia's request to bring Cybertrucks to this market. Because let's face it, after all, they did bring the Model S and the Model X, which had
Yep.
vastly less market potential many years ago. And, they were super expensive cars. Yes, the Cybertruck will be expensive as well, but there are a large number of buyers in Australia that will buy it. And let's face it, everyone they sell for a profit is a good thing for Tesla, especially since
Yep.
they've already got the plant and equipment at Giga Austin to build them.
Yeah, that's it.
So I really do think that the introduction of a Cybertruck into Australia is logically inevitable. But yeah, I just want it tomorrow, thanks. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right.
The other thing is that the 3 and the Y are made in China for us, so no tariffs.
Thank goodness. Yes.
Cybertruck made in the US might be, who knows what might happen there.
Okay, so it's been a week, 7 days since Freedom Day. And,
Liberation Day.
sorry, Liberation Day. Sorry, Freedom
Liberation.
Day was another day, was it? Liberation Day. Sorry, freedom, liberty. Yeah. Can you have liberty and be free? Thanks, Pete. Liberation Day, and I guess us Tesla shareholders have been liberated from about 22% of our capital wealth since then. But it's okay. Tesla's on the pre-market is up.
Oh, good.
Apple actually lost its world's most valuable company status to Microsoft
Oh,
because it's lost in a week. It has lost 22% of its market cap, and that's I think it's a $3 trillion plus company. So there's a bit of discounting on Apple at the moment. But yeah, it's certainly been interesting times. And sort of dovetailing into other discussions we've had, the good thing is Tesla still has a positive future no matter what the machinations are at the moment. There is a chance that during the earnings call on the 23rd of February, Wednesday, 23rd of February, Perth time, and Hobart time as well. Sorry, not time, but day.
April.
April, yeah, 23rd of April.
Yep.
Hopefully Elon Musk or perhaps we don't know who's going to be on the call, but maybe someone else will have some green shoots as far as the more reasonably priced car. Although, of course, that might simply be a relative statement. I think I think Tesla's Australian pricing will be quite stable, but obviously in the States, I think most of the cars there have about an 80% content, American content, and 20% are imported parts. So those prices will go up, but hopefully in Australia they won't, and hopefully the more reasonably priced car will still be the same reasonable price coming out of Shanghai, which I guess is,
Yep.
from our selfish point of view, is what we mainly care about. But who knows in these interesting times.
We'll have to see.
Alrighty, so anyone else got any questions or comments?
Perhaps I can jump in.
Can I ask Harold?
Yes, Matthew.
I'm planning to go across the Nullarbor actually in next week sometime. And
So Matthew, you're a bit soft there. Can you maybe speak a little bit closer to your microphone or something a little bit soft?
yeah, sure. Is that better?
No,
Oh, okay.
you sound very echoey. You're sounding like you're in a small room.
Right.
Oh, that's a bit better, but just
Oh,
try and
okay.
talk a bit louder if you can.
It's obviously using a different mic than I planned it to use.
Oh, that's better.
Yes. So we're planning to go across the Nullarbor next week sometime, and it
Yes.
sounds like you said the Majura Pass. Sorry, Baladonia won't be ready by then, but Majura Pass is back on deck.
No. So, okay. So if I'll just bring up PlugShare. So basically we've got Northam. Oops. Northam is WAV network is running.
Yeah, sorry, I'm coming from the southwest.
Oh, southwest. Okay. So if we go, say, Albany, Jerramungup is working, Ravensthorpe is working, Esperance is working. Norseman works on app only, doesn't work with the RFID card. Then Baladonia, there's a temporary charger. So that is the generator. I might just change that image. That's the generator there, and that's actually 1,000 litres of canola oil. So that's a 60 kilowatt DC charger. That's actually free at the moment, so that works. Then what I meant about Baladonia was that the Hermanit solution, which is the entirely off-grid solar power, battery-backed diesel generator backup, a proper charger is only now being in the process of being installed, but the temporary one is there and operating.
Okay.
So that's Baladonia. Then you've got Kaiguna. That's also a temporary charger that works. You've got Cockle Biddy, which you won't need, but there's a 22 kilowatt Delta charger that's there. You've got Majura Pass, which now works. So that was the one that was offline due to vandalism and other things up until 2 days ago. So that is now running.
And
Then
that's also the canola oil too, is it?
canola oil, yes.
Yep.
Then you've got Mundrabilla Roadhouse, which will probably work. And I say that sort of through gritted teeth. It's most likely to work. But what you should do, depending on where you're sleeping or whatever your situation is, definitely charge quite fully at Majura Pass and then go to Mundrabilla. And then according to PlugShare and John Edwards, it seems you don't need to say anything. You just go there and use it. Now, Mundrabilla, what will happen is it's a tritium charger and it's got nothing to do with the fact it's tritium, is in order to try and play nicely with the off-grid power supply, the charger will take 10 minutes to gently ramp up to full power, which is 50 kilowatts. And obviously,
Okay.
when you're watching a kettle boil, it takes a long time. So it's going to be quite painful to watch it very slowly go up. Now, what you might see is if while it's going up, the diesel generator kicks in, which you won't really be aware of, but if it does, you might see the power level then drop suddenly and then slowly inch back up again. Now, don't unplug your car as long as it's still charging, albeit at a low rate, but increasing rate, just leave it. And then with a bit of luck, you'll get all the way up to 100% or whatever you're getting up to. And also depending again where you're overnighting. One of the problem sites, which either works perfectly or is functionally useless, is the NRMA's Nullarbor Roadhouse site. Now, please do notice that there are 2 pins. So you've got to zoom right in on your phone. And the one on the right is the NRMA Nullarbor Roadhouse charger, which is a solar canopy and it's got a diesel generator and a couple of chargers. And that will either work perfectly if you're fortunate, or it'll work really crappily, or it won't work at all. So if you get to a point where, say, it was working, but then the power goes right down and the diesel generator is running, and for whatever reason, or you get to the site and it's running before you even start, just try once. It is likely to bog down the tritium. As soon as it ramps up to full power, will bog down the generator, flick off, and then you'll have to start again. If that's the case, just go straight around the corner. So you go around the corner to the crowd-funded and Tesla Owners Club funded. There's a joint Tokwa, Toka, and Ava funded Delta charger around the corner.
Okay.
And that's on the west side of the Nullarbor, the Perth side of the roadhouse. And so it's not this photo where someone has incorrectly put in, unfortunately. And you can actually see it right there. It's the laundry it's just near this tree here. So you just go straight in. Whereas the NRMA charger is to the right here.
Mhm.
So do that as soon as the NRMA stops working once or twice. Now, after you've done that, then you've your Yalata Roadhouse. Now, Yalata is slow. It only puts out 33 odd kilowatts. It says 50, but 33 kilowatts. So it's a little bit slow, but you could say it's steady. Like it will work, albeit a bit slower. And then once you've topped up at Yalata, actually, if you can fully charge at Nullarbor, you won't need Yalata because you'll have enough to get to Ceduna. And Ceduna is a Kempower proper charger, which works quite well. And after you've hit Ceduna, it's all milk and honey because you've then got Woodner, Kimber, Port Augusta has a supercharger. So Port Augusta will be your first supercharger, which is just here. And that's actually a version 4 supercharger, which is awesome.
Yes.
And then after that, you're in the land of milk and honey and you don't care
Unless, of
whatsoever
course,
what happens.
Unless, of course, we go to Cooper Pedy.
Oh, yes. Okay. No. Been there, done that. So are you going to Cooper Pedy?
We're thinking of it, and we saw that Pimba is a place to stop on the way.
Yes. So you charge up at the supercharger at Port Augusta, and then you go to the Kempower at Pimba, and it's just behind. Don't know if there's a map, but you sort of, if you look on PlugShare, you really can't miss it. You can see the pin, but actually that's an image. The road is here. You can see the petrol Bowsers, and you sort of go to the back,
Yes.
slide dogleg straight to the charger there, and that's Pimba. And then you get to Cooper P. Actually, and you've also got Glendambo along the way, and there is a CTEC 20, I think it's 20 or 30 kilowatt charger at Glendambo, which is useful. That's with the RAA, so that's always useful to do a top up. And then you've got Cooper Pedy. Cooper Pedy, I hope it works. It says 1 of 3 charges. It's been vandalized in the past, but just check the PlugShare comments. So would not work earlier. Type 2 still failed. Rebooted. Had success. Okay, so it's probably working.
Probably worth checking that before we leave Port Augusta then.
Well, it depends. So if you're overnighting, are you intending on overnighting at Cooper Pedy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you overnight, you just go to the, what's the name hotel, the Desert something hotel. If It's called this one. Oops, that one. Desert Cave Hotel, and that's got a Tesla destination charger right here.
Oh, nice.
So if you were to stay at the Desert Cave Hotel, it's inside their compound, and it's basically right there, and that's full destination charger. So by the morning you'll be completely full,
Yes.
or whatever.
Yep. Do you think it'd be worthwhile picking up a Type 2 or a phase 3 charger before we
Okay,
leave?
so you definitely need a Type 2 cable.
Okay.
Don't leave Perth without a Type 2 to Type 2 cable. Now, if you're a club member, you can borrow a Type 2 cable from the club. If you're a financial member, so obviously
Something to do, yeah.
that's $20 a year,
Okay.
a whole
I'm
$1
a
a year for
member.
membership. And you can borrow a cable, or if you think you're going to use it more often, you can. I mean, I think there are other. I think even Super Cheap Auto might have them. I know Tesla have the original Maniki's 22 kilowatt cable, 32 amp, three-phase cable for $310, I think, delivered to your door. But obviously, I think you said you were leaving very soon, so you can just borrow one from the club. In fact, I'll just put my phone number in the chat. Just give me a call tomorrow and we'll sort something out.
Thank you.
And were you going north of Coober Pedy or just Coober Pedy and then back?
Yeah, definitely no further than that. Yeah, just
So say no further or definitely
Yeah.
further?
definitely no further.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
Unless you've got a recommendation that we should do it, but I don't think we've got time for it, unfortunately.
Well, was Coober Pedy going to be your final destination? You were going to go back to Perth, or were you going to?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How much time do you have?
We're fairly flexible in terms of what we choose to do, but we probably be a week, maybe 10 days.
Yeah. And this is no, Coober Pedy, you'll be fine. Yeah.
We don't want to try and do too many things for the first time. Just want to get a feel for it.
That's right. And the problem is Alice Springs, which would be your next logical thing, is a long way away. And for a 10-day return trip, that would be 5 days each way. And yeah, that's pushing it. Now, look, I go Coober Pedy. What you can do, though, is you can smash out between, say, Perth and Baladonia or something or whatever. When you've got fast DC charges at nice intervals, the trick too with doing a rapid road trip, rapid as in rapid charging, is with the Kempowers. So they are. I'll just bring up the map. So basically, the Kempowers are everywhere to Norseman. So including Esperance and Ravensthorpe and Jerramungup and Albany, whatever Albany's got superchargers. All of these chargers are fast, but you get the quickest charge when your state of charge is between, or say 10% and 40%. So that's the very fastest perfect charging curve, whereby you sort of use the low end of the battery for the Kempowers, because that's when you get a very fast gain in kilometers. So you sort of just jump from one to the next at relatively lower states of charge. Once you start going along the Nullarbor where you're not entirely certain that everything's going to be working well, then you sort of more do top charging where you're topping up so that you can always leapfrog one location and another. Bear in mind, just look carefully at PlugShare, at the comments or the posts or the score, and to see if people have had success. And also critically open your ChargeFox app and make sure, because all of these locations are on ChargeFox.
Okay.
Except for the Nullarbor Roadhouse, which is not on anything because it's offline. Yeah, it's just free issue, free vend. Just make sure that it's online.
Okay.
so that if you see it's online or it's, and make sure it's not faulted or something like that. Just so that, and if you do find one that is faulted, calculate the distance between the charger location before it and the one after it, and make sure you've got enough distance. And that just means you might have to more fully charge your car. But it takes as long to get from 20% to 80% as it does to get from 80% to 100%. So for a faster transit or less time charging during the daytime, try not to generally charge above 80% unnecessarily.
Yep, makes sense.
But Cooper PD is, you'll do that no problems. And like I said, the Desert Cave Motel, if you're overnighting there, then you don't even have to worry about potential vandalism at the Kempower at the community centre. Just use the Tesla destination charger.
Sounds good. Thanks, Harold. Any other suggestions from you, Harold, or anyone else about where to stop or where not to stop?
Oh no, there's nowhere bad along that route. It's not like you're going to Alice Springs or Halls Creek or Fitzroy Crossing or Catherine
Sure.
or Timber Creek or many other places. No, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Thank you, Harold. That's very helpful.
No worries. Huffies, I think. Yes, you got. Yeah. Huffies, you got your hand up.
Thanks, Harold. I was just going to say that I'm pretty sure that Tesla Osborne Park have got the Type 2 chargers in stock. You can just walk up to the desk and buy it, because I saw a customer buying it on Friday. He was just coming to inquire and they had some in stock, as well as the UMCs. I don't know how they have some there.
So did you say chargers or you mean charge cable?
The cable, sorry. And he bought a Type 2 charge cable as well as a UMC, because he had no idea. So they had, I don't know if that's constant, they keep one or they have many.
Actually, apologies. I meant to actually highlight that. They do have stock, and this is something that we asked them to do quite a while ago, and they have been doing it. You buy it over the counter in the sense that I think you still have to do it through the app, but they raise a certain ticket. You have to raise a certain ticket or something, and then it gets done through the app. But yes, they do have local stock. You're dead right, Huffies, and that's really good, because a lot of people just don't realise when they get a brand new car that they take it home and they've got no means to charge it. I mean, obviously it goes without saying you can always take it to a supercharger and charge it at any time. But yeah, you're dead right, Huffies. That's good info. So, so Matthew, if you really wanted to, you could get a Type 2 if you thought you were going to keep it. Sorry, of course you're going to keep it if you're going to buy it, but if you're going to use it for other trips or even for some local charging. But otherwise, just give me a call and we can sort out a loan one in the first instance.
Yeah, thank you. I do have the UMC, including the 15 amp, but of course that's only useful in a caravan park, and it doesn't do fast charging or faster charging as the Type 2 might do. So
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And by the way, if anyone watching, say on YouTube or on X, if you do get a third-party Type 2 to Type 2 charging cable, please don't buy a single phase one. Make sure it's a three-phase charger cable, and also make sure it's a so-called 22 kilowatt rated one, or 32 amps three-phase. And that's because you may come across some locations whereby there's only single-phase charging through the Type 2 outlet, but of course single-phase charging runs at 32 amps single-phase, whereas the three-phase charging for your car will be, if it's a Model 3 or Model Y, will be 16 amps three-phase. But if you buy the cheaper 16 amp three-phase cable, if you get to a single-phase site, you'll get half the charging rate, which will be quite slow. So rather than getting 7 kilowatts, you'll be getting half that. So please, if you do buy a Type 2 cable, do buy a three-phase one, and do buy one that's rated at either 22 kilowatts or 32 amps three-phase. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments?
Harold, I just want to ask maybe a really stupid question, but recently in the last sort of 2-3 months, if you're charging the car goes to full, it tends to discharge if it's sitting plugged in. Is that something I'm noticing?
Yes.
Notice with both the cars.
Yes. Yep. So the car doesn't continually keep dribbling in milliamps of energy, of power, or of current, to be more precise. What it will do is it'll sort of get a bit of a hysteresis whereby, say, it'll be at 100% and it might drip down to 97%, and then it will start charging back up to 100%. I've got an inverter that you can see a graph, and I've gone on holidays and I've seen my car, my wife's car, periodically about 4 times in a 24-hour period sip on a little bit of energy. So, and it does that sort of in every 6 hours roughly. So you're dead right, Hafiz. Rather than actually literally staying dead on 100% at the whole time, because you've got either Sentry mode turned on or have an overheat protection, there'll be a little bit of vampire drain or whatever, and rather than incessantly charging the whole time, and that's actually quite wasteful because you're not running the charger at a sort of rated, well, at a reasonable energy level, which means a power level, sorry, which means it'll be very inefficient. It waits, drips down a bit, then tops back up, and then over time, drip down, top back up. So you will get sort of oscillating behavior. That's totally normal. And it'll do that at any charge level. So if you set it to 100%, it'll go down to 97. You set it to 80, it'll go down to 77-ish, and etc.
Thank you.
No worries. Alrighty. Anyone else got any questions? Otherwise, we'll go to Gareth for his third of 4 questions.
Just one quick one before you go. Also, I'm thinking about, it's not till next March, so it's a while off yet. I'm thinking about doing a lap. And I'm also going to offer to you before then upgrade from the Model 3 we've got at the moment to one of the new Model Ys. Would you, if you're going to do a lap, say you're better off with a long range, or do you think you're perfectly okay with a standard range?
You're perfectly okay with the standard range. So Pete and I did 2 brand new standard range Model Ys.
Oh, they were standard range, were they? I thought they were both long range.
No, because the first Model Ys that came out were the standard range. So we did it. We got the cars on Friday and left on Sunday morning and did a bi-directional simultaneous lap with standard range Model Ys. Now the biggest gap, actually you don't really need to do it as a gap, because if you're going to do a lap, you're going to go to Derby anyway. So the bigger lap, because you might as well.
Maybe do a figure 8.
Excellent. Well, you know someone that's done one before, so it's easy to do.
Who's that?
Well, yours truly. And yours truly is so stupid that he also did it with a Caravan just in case it wasn't hard enough without one. But so the biggest gap, ignoring Derby, is Broome to Fitzroy Crossing, which is 400 kilometres, and that absolutely can be done in a standard range Model Y. However, you might as well go and visit Derby, so that cuts up the journey, and that's fine. And that's really the biggest gap you've got. The only other one which you can strategically plan for, and you're saying May next year, and this could all change, but
no, March next year.
Oh, sorry, March next year. Sorry, and that's in 12 months' time. So the other gap is between Three Ways, which has got a 160 kilowatt ABB charger, 180 kilowatts, I think. I can't remember now. And Camowheel. and that is 450 kilometers. That is, you can do that in a standard range, but you'd be doing something like possibly 80 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
However, in between, there is, caravan main socket. In between is a rather anti-EV place called Barclay Roadhouse. So, but you can charge just using the 15 amp outlet at a powered site. So
yeah, I've done that before. It's slow, but you can do it.
yeah. So, but the point there is that if you sort of arrange your trip, so you deliberately plan to overnight there, in the 10 hours or 12 hours that you're there, you'll have bucket loads of extra range. So you can bash out 130 kilometers per hour to Barclay, because that's the Northern Territory speed limit. You can then top up overnight on 15 amp. But do make sure, if you're road tripping, get yourself a 15 amp extension cord.
Yeah, got one.
Only because when you go to the KMAX and the tail on the UMCs, the Universal Mobile Connectors, the tail is offset 45 degrees. It's a weird sort of setup, and it doesn't always fit in the plug where the KMAC is, because they're usually upside down on this mushroom. Sorry, I just got to unscreen. Why is that showing? Sorry, 2 seconds. For some reason, I've changed my camera. There we go. That had me a little bit confused. So the KMAC is upside down. There's a mushroom, and then you put your plug upwards, and it sometimes binds with the side. So get yourself either just a standard 15 amp extension cord, or if you know someone, just get them to make up a small stubby lead, just so that it sort of gets your UMC out of the power point. But do bring something like some gaffer tape. Get some the white cloth tape at Bunnings, because it's clean but very strong, and you can cut it. You can just tear it with your fingers, and just tape it up so make sure that it stays plugged in if you're charging overnight. Because the last thing you want to do is wake up in the morning and it's fallen out half an hour after you went to sleep. And ask me why I know. So Barclay Homestead on a lap is a great strategic stopping point, which means you don't have to push the 450 Ks and climb that mountain of hypermiling, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
I do know the NRMA have already scouted Camberwell as a location for a fast DC charger. So that, I dare say, should be done within a year's time. And I do know on their rollout map, they have intended to put in a charger at or near Barclay Homestead. So you might actually find by the time you do it in March next year, it's really going to be very simple to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And obviously,
it just depends on which car we go for. Because I was thinking for this, I might actually get the long range, but I don't need to.
In my personal opinion, if you're just mainly using it in Western Australia, the only reason why you would get a long range is if you wanted the extra performance. In other words, 0 to 100 or dynamic performance.
Yeah.
The actual day-to-day driving and even almost all road trips, there's basically no compromise. And in fact, one big point a lot of people miss on the difference between a long range and a standard range is the standard range is well configured to be used. You use the whole battery all day, every day.
Yeah.
You charge it to 100%, you can use the whole battery pack. On a long range around town, Tesla recommends, because it's a different battery chemistry, it's that dirty nickel chemistry that
from Indonesia,
that Tesla recommends you only for a daily basis charge it to 80%. And the fact is, on a daily use basis, a long range at 80% has about the same range as a standard range at 100%. So for day-to-day use, no difference. Road trip, slight difference, but only for those extreme cases for which there are less and less of those occurring wherever you drive. So,
Yeah.
but unless you say, well, I want to have, if we just bring up Tesla's website, because we'll see how much it would take to get you into a Tesla tonight.
That's
If you
76K, I think.
order now, so the Model Y standard range is 0 to 105.9 seconds, and the all-wheel drive is 4.8. So it's a difference of 1.1 seconds in performance, all other things being equal. So
You got a better stereo as well, though.
and a better stereo, yep. And the price is 76 drive away, no more to pay on a Poverty Pearl White long range, and 65. So that's about, let's call it 11K for 1.1 seconds of faster speed. So you're paying $1,000 for every tenth of a second. Some people would
Not
think
cheap.
that, I bet Damo would think that was well worth it if he could get a few tenths of a second off. But road trip wise, to be honest, you can do a lap of Australia easily in a standard range Model Y.
That's the bit I want to know.
Absolutely easily. So, if that was the only reason why you thought you needed a long range, then you don't.
Yeah.
But obviously, there might be other reasons that are equally valid.
It's just how I make the argument to Shirl.
Oh, just
So
say
I can actually make it either way now. Now I know I can do it. I know I can play now.
you can go either way. You can go, yeah, well, Harold said blah blah blah, but on the other hand, it'll go faster. And she'll roll her eyes and go, do you really need to go fast? And you'll go, well, no, they only live once, whatever. You might
Well,
have
we're
to,
still young enough.
you might have to drive in some snow somewhere in the.
If it's a bit boggy, if it gets a bit boggy, then the four-wheel drive.
There you go. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Cheers, Harold. Thanks for that.
No worries. All right. Anyone else got any other questions or comments?
Yes. What about the long range though? Why doesn't the longer range for charging? How many kilometers?
Oh, at least 50. So let me just see what the website says. So it
It's
says,
90 Ks and more, I think.
oh, sorry, maybe 90. So it's 466. That is not the true range. That's just a representative
Yeah.
range. So it's 466. Sorry, and I've just got to grab something. Yeah, so 466, and the long range is 551. So, okay, it's 85 kilometers of indicative range. Now, what that probably represents in reality is because all these figures are skewed. So you will not get, if you're driving in the outback or on a chip seal road, you'll never get 551 on a long range, and you'll never get 466. You'll get more like, at 110 k's an hour, you'll get more like probably 450 and say 360, something like that, in real world
Yeah.
crappy road driving.
I know, but in mine it's only about 300.
That's the standard range Model 3.
Yeah.
300, you should get more 300 if you charge 100%. That's on a standard range.
320 maybe.
Yeah, it does depend. And look, another big factor is, for example, wind. So if
Yeah.
you've got a headwind, it makes a big difference. And that means if you're driving south and you've got a sou'wester, you're punching into the wind. Or say going up north to Kalbarri, it'll be great going up, but on the way back you'll get hit by the sou'wester as well. So headwinds make a big difference, but it's mainly a relative thing. The long range will probably add about an extra 70 relative kilometers more when fully charged. But again, it takes as long to get from 80 to 100% as it does to go all the way from 20 to 80%. So you really don't drive your car from full to flat intentionally. You
No.
obviously have brief charging intervals in between. The charges are 100 or 200 kilometers distance, then it's easy to do these rapid charging sessions. And then it doesn't matter what kind of battery you have. But like I said, by all means, if you prefer the all-wheel drive or you just want that little bit extra range or whatever, by all means, you know, 11 grand's 11 grand, you know.
And there is the
Well,
other
the
thing,
ex-
Harold, as well. Sorry.
No, the extra range will make a difference because I have the aircon on, the radio, all the gizmos. So it does make a difference.
Oh yes, yes. But the difference if you are say supercharging along a route,
Okay.
in fact, I can guarantee you that if you were say supercharging between Townsville
Yeah.
and Adelaide, going all the way along the coast,
Oh, yeah.
the difference between driving a long range and a standard range in charging time is probably almost nothing
Okay.
because it's not like you would have to charge your standard range car so much, like right up to 100%,
Yep.
whereas say in the long range you wouldn't. When you're on superchargers or very fast DC chargers that are well spaced, closely spaced, and where you take regular sort of charging sessions, there's probably almost no difference between a standard range and a long range as far as how it performs and how quick the total trip is, or at least how long it takes to charge. So
Doesn't that make a big difference then? That because of the on the standard range, you've got 175 maximum, and you got 250 maximum charging rates. Does that not really make a big difference then, from your experience?
No, because most people that drive a long range Tesla will never see 250 kilowatts charging because you only get that for a few seconds, provided your state of charge is less than 10%.
Yeah.
And I dare say most normal Tesla owners are not going to take their battery down to 10%.
No.
Nowhere near. They're not going to dare to try. Although, to be honest, you absolutely can, and there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt the batteries to be down to 10% whatsoever. In fact, I like being at relatively lower states of charge. I love being between 20 and 50%. But just because most people don't wish to have that sort of anxiety or whatever, just don't do it. So if you took a long range Model Y, preheated everything at a supercharger, at a version 3 supercharger, at 30% state of charge, which is probably fairly common, you'll never see 250 kilowatts. It'll be more like 100 and maybe 200, 160 to 80, whatever. Bear in mind, the initial charging speed has very little to do with the final performance, because it's all got to do with how the charging rate goes up and then goes down and then plateaus. It's sort of like the average of the curve. It's not just the extremes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, to be honest, in a road trip, you'd find it very difficult to show a meaningful difference. It could be 10 minutes in 1,000 kilometers, which is nothing.
Just on that, sorry, Harold.
Yes, Gareth.
I did a trip down to Busselton the other day. I charged it up to 100%, so I got the long range Model 3. So when I dig into those stats, will I be able to see the charging rate? Because
no,
I was only at the Tesla supercharger for 20 minutes and it went back up to 80%.
Yes. Yeah,
Times.
absolutely. Yeah, so you can't see you can see the charging rate in your charging screen or in your app. It'll tell you how many kilowatts it's taking, but it doesn't graph that in a nice way where you can see the charging curve. Anyone that produces charging curves has sort of done it the manual way, where they've effectively entered in values in Excel and just plotted it out. But Or
So I
sorry,
definitely,
app
I
they've
didn't
used.
need the charge. I just did it to sort of get a feel for how you'd use a Tesla supercharger, but I could have done that trip and back, no worries.
Yep. So if you are a road tripping demon and you want to do the absolute best, quickest sort of transit time for superchargers, you try and arrive almost empty and leave by about 40% tops as it starts rolling off. So you keep trying to go between 0 and 40%. And that's the absolute quickest way of transiting from point A to B using superchargers or fast DC chargers. But again, most normal people would just go, 70 or 80 to 30%, 40%, something like that. And that's perfectly fine too. Because, we're talking about the difference between 20 minutes of charging or 25, 30 minutes, if that. Not even. It makes very little difference. Alrighty. Any other questions? These 2 hours are really racing by tonight.
I have a little rumor.
Oh, go, Mike.
So I saw online somewhere there was some chats today about the Stork. So I made some comments, I think last week or the week before, that as this Model 3 I've got being our first Tesla is such an excellent car, and the new 3 is just more attractive, but I can't handle the button indicators for right turns on leaving on a roundabout. So there is as we know, the new Model Y has the Stork for indication. And there is a rumor that if you buy a new Model 3 sometime later this year, you can have an optional accessory called a Stork.
That's probably correct.
So
that's what Tesla have stated, that's their intention, is to bring the Stork back to new Model 3s as well.
Yeah, but it's an accessory as opposed to it will be a build, if you know what I'm saying. So you can have it added when you buy it as an optional extra. You don't have to have it.
Yes.
Whereas on the Y, you've got to have it.
Yes, because as featured in Time magazine.
I saw that today. That's what triggered my thoughts, and I did a bit of research, and because I was sort of thinking, well, maybe they'll do a refresh, with just a few cosmetic upgrades around the time they might bring FSD later this year here. And I was thinking of waiting for that, but maybe I don't have to, because I've got this long range 3 at the moment, a speed boost as well, and I just do not need that performance. And it was the car that was handy at the time, but a standard range 3 that's a better ride and a bit quieter and all that stuff. If it had the Stork, I'd buy it tomorrow, so to speak.
Just to go into that, Mike, I got the Highland, and the haptic feedback on those, to be honest, it is so easy to get used to that. I don't see why. Personally, I don't understand what people would.
No, it's only the one use case, Gareth. It's just when you are leaving a roundabout and you're turning right, the indicators are upside down on the wrong side of the steering wheel. It takes a bit of getting used to.
It's just a good mental game to play.
Yeah. It's only that single use case. And as you know, here, we got tons of these titchy roundabouts, and the highway code, whatever you want to call it, does recommend to your indicator to leave a right-hand turn roundabout.
And I'm doing that. Like, I've driven it for 2,000 Ks, and it becomes very intuitive.
I think,
I don't know. I'm finding it very easy.
Isn't there a technique whereby if the steering wheel's upside down, I forget how it goes, isn't it still the correct side? If you still do the left hand, what looks on the left, it's still left.
No, so the way to remember it is if you're going around a roundabout, you obviously want your right indicator to be on entering the roundabout. So you press the top button on the left, which is obviously right. Now, when you're exiting it on the right, you press the top button again, which is now the left button. So does that make sense? So what you can do is so all you have to remember is to enter the roundabout, you press the top button on the left, and to exit, you press the top button on the right. That's all you need to remember.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you guys. And the thing is, though, remember the old bell curve. Probably people here are reasonable drivers, and I include myself in that. But I have other family members who struggle with certain driving things.
There is another option. Sexy
Yes.
Buttons have actually brought out the ones where you can actually
Yes.
put them on.
Yeah, and that's
You
true.
can add either.
Although I have heard that there are issues with them, but anyway, another story.
I think when FSD comes out, it's not even going to be a thing.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
You're just going to put
And that's the
point
fix.
to point. You don't even touch anything.
And that's the fix. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So down the track, it won't be an issue. But I'd just like a newer Model 3 sooner, and my other drivers in the house are not going to be able to deal with the current buttons.
It's a beautiful car. I'm just blown away by how good that is.
Yeah.
It certainly is. But look, I have very little doubt that Tesla will not bring out. Sorry, I'm certain. Shouldn't use double negatives. It's dumb. I'm certain Tesla will bring out a retrofit option for any Highland Model 3 to have stalks as a retrofit kit. I'm certain that will come, and I'm certain that they will either add the stalks mandatorily, because if you listen to their logic, they said that they maintained the stalks in the refreshed Model Y because of popular demand and feedback. They said they listened to their customers. So I dare say if listening to customers regarding the Model Y retaining a stalk, the logic by extension is they should also listen to customers whose criticism was originated from the Highland with no stalks to say sometime in the near future they will reintroduce stalks into Model 3. Whether they have to make that wait for another very minor refresh or some minor little tweaks before they do it, or whether they have a ticker box, you can have one or the other. But Tesla drills down to simplicity. I doubt they're going to give you much of a choice between two versions. They're just going to decide as of X date, the stalk will be back. It'll be the same as the Model Y, so the whole steering column will be the same, and it'll just reunify.
Can I hack into that?
The only exception might be if they suddenly bring steer by wire, which is very unlikely.
Yeah, very unlikely. So yeah, Mark, not to put short shrift, but that is exceedingly unlikely right now. But it will.
Oh, it is.
Later.
Yeah.
But we'll get back to that in a sec. Sorry, Gareth, and then Mike, you're going to say something, and we'll go back to your thing, Mark, because I'll explain why in a sec.
Oh no, it's all right.
Yeah, sorry, just trying to hack into that because that's one of my questions is the feedback to Tesla. So how do you give that feedback where they get that information? Like with the stalks, where people are like wigging out on little functionality things. Where do I go to input information?
It's very haphazard. Look, you can tell us, and we can collate it all and then present that as feedback from our members. For example, Lars Moravi, just a day ago, I think it was, time sort of flies, he put out a post on X that said, is there anything that you'd like us to do to improve our cars in 2026?
Okay.
30,000 replies or something. So on X, it does sometimes occur from time to time where whether it's Elon Musk or Lars Moravi or someone else will say, hey, give us suggestions. Now, obviously you're 1 in 1,000 voices or 1 in 10 or 100,000 voices, but I dare say that almost everything that we would care to criticize or an improvement we may suggest has undoubtedly been criticized or that suggestion made by many, many others. And Tesla are undoubtedly aware. It's just that sometimes it doesn't always seem that they take up that advice.
It's the force of the voice, isn't it? So if you get 1,000 people saying it, it's different to 10 people.
And Elon Musk, as part of, I forget if he calls it his formula or no, I forget what he describes it, but one of his mantras is, unless you are forced to add 10% of your part deletions in a product, then you're not deleting enough. And his first principle is, if in doubt, delete it. And only if you find with hindsight that that deletion was inappropriate, should you then later add it back. And I dare say that perhaps Storks, maybe to Elon Musk's frustration, but we are just humans. And Mark, you were talking about bell curves. We're not all to the right of the bell curve. Some of us are very much to the left of the bell curve, and obviously the vast majority of us are in the center. And if Storks was really suitable for those to the right side of the bell curve and not so much to the center, then obviously that's an inappropriate deletion and they should return. The exception perhaps is Cybertruck, whereby it's different, and that goes to your thing, Mark, is Cybertruck has steer by wire, whereby its lock to lock is less than 360 degrees. In fact, it's 270 degrees lock to lock. So the right-hand lock is 270 that way, and the left-hand lock is half of 270 that way, and the opposite lock is that way. So you never cross your arms. So at a roundabout, you could go like this, and wherever the button is, you always know which button it is. It's always on the correct side. So with Cybertruck, you're used to the buttons. You don't ever have to worry about crossing arms and all that sort of stuff ever, because of their indirect steer by wire. And getting to what Mark sort of suggested with the Model 3 and Y, that will not come for quite a while, because that necessitates effectively an entire wiring loom transplant, whereby basically every control module on the car would have to be modified to go with the 48 volt low voltage architecture, which would then pair with the ether loop, which is replacing virtually all CAN bus in communications with Tesla's proprietary Ethernet setup. And for the same reason, Lars Moravia actually explained, with the logistics of that very high volume, those two very high volume cars that are already in established production, that's just too much disruption to the supply chain to introduce that as a change for the time being. It's something that will happen evolutionarily, but every new product, so Robotaxi has 48 volt architecture with ether loop, Cybertruck does, and perhaps the more affordable cars, if that's a real different variant, and any future products will have all of those features, just not the current production.
And possibly Model S and X if they refresh. Possibly.
Yes, because
it's small production.
Very low production numbers. I mean, we had our figures, I think it was 17,000 cars between S, X and Cybertruck were produced last quarter, which is very low numbers. It's very low. Mike?
Yes, something I forgot from Tim when I went to see him at Tesla. And it relates to what Gareth was saying. So if you, say, have one of these funny speed things or some other issue, you can initiate a bug report. And you guys probably know this, but I didn't. So if you press the right thumb wheel so that you bring up the voice activation and you then say bug report, I think, that will take a snapshot of the data and send it off to Tesla, and they collate all that.
What it sort of actually does is it effectively puts a timestamp as a flag in their system, so that you could say, oh, look, I did a bug report roughly at what day, and they'll see, oh, look, there's a bug report flag, which they can then go straight to that and look at all the characteristics of the car at that time. So it's more like a reference point.
Yep.
Sadly, I think Tesla were implying in the old days that you could say something like bug report, the speed limit is shown as, the speed limit is 110 k's an hour, but the car thinks it's 80. That doesn't work. They don't read the bug reports. They don't read the text that follows on. And frustratingly, often if you say bug report and then start talking to the car, it'll misinterpret it and have this gobbledygook. And then it will, without you having the opportunity of editing it, just sends it off and goes, yep, successfully sent. And you go, oh, it didn't do what I said. But basically the bug report purpose seems to be more of, it produces like a bookmark and a timestamp, and then that's something that Tesla can easily look for if something weird happened that you want to explain to them. Yeah.
And a final thing then, just quickly for me, is I've had a win. My partner in crime, other half, whatever the politically correct statement is, asked me to explain how to use the auto parking, because I use it all the time, because I've always been a reverse parker anyway. And so that's a win as far as I'm concerned, because it's so good. It works without fail. I've never had it fail yet.
Oh, right. Okay. I guess I need to try it more.
So what I would say is that if you position your car as if you were going to do it yourself, it works perfectly every time. If you give it a hard time, in other words, let's say pull up immediately adjacent to the spot that you've selected, it still gets there. It's just more fiddly. It fiddles a lot and annoys everybody else while it fiddles around. But it gets there. It does park. It just takes longer.
That's right. If you're not sort of in the ideal sort of 45-degree angle, if you're going to be in a reverse parking spot, if you're a bit too tight, rather than it moving forwards more to give itself more room, it'll just do a 6-point turn. It'll just sort of keep inching sort of into the bay, militantly sort of saying, I'm going to keep going backwards because that's what my job is. And just, like you say, make it slow.
The fact my wife asked for me to explain how it works, because you see me use it, is a good thing. So that I mean, if there's anybody still watching, that's a statement for how good the car is. And this is a 3-year-old car. This is not the current Highland version.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Have we got any last drinks before we go? Because it's nearly the 2-hour mark. And any last questions before we do?
Did you see the report by Liam Bartlett on the? Yeah.
Yep. So Carmen,
what are your comments?
No, we all ventilated that at the start of the show. Do look on YouTube.
Okay.
But however, I do have an audio thing. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but it was along the lines of bullshit. That one. I don't know if that came up properly, or possibly bullshit. So that's what it was mostly about. But Pete, are you still in the room?
Yes, I am, Harold.
Oh, okay. All right. So, last drinks. Any one last question before we go to outro? Bearing in mind the outro is going to have an Easter egg that I want someone to explain what it was next week. It'll be very subtly different. But, any last questions? No, we're all good. All righty. So, Pete, how would you take out an awesome show like this as if we didn't already know?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and abundance. Have a wonderful week, everyone. And I really do look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of TOCWA's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks, Harold.
Good night. Thanks, Harold.